Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Norvia, and today I wanted to talk about my 6-year Microloc journey. If you're thinking about getting Microlocs, already have Microlocs, or just curious about what the journey looks like for someone with Microlocs, this video is for you. I started my Microloc journey 6 years ago simply because I got tired of trying to manage my natural hair. At that time, I was in a season of my life where I wanted to be more intentional. So as I mentioned, I started my Microloc journey January 5th, 2020, and I can honestly say the beginning phase of my Microlocs was not easy. I had to get used to the look and the size, especially when my Microlocs were installed. I often found myself looking in the mirror after my install, questioning whether or not this was the best decision for me, because I was so used to seeing my hair full, but after the install, seeing the smaller parts and seeing my hair actually looked pretty thin after my install. That's just my opinion. I felt like my hair looked pretty thin. So it kind of felt awkward walking around with my hair looking this way. And to be honest, I actually decided on Microlocs because as a child, I used to always get micro braids, and I loved the look of micro braids. To me, micro braids looked more like your natural blown out hair. So I felt like I wanted my Microlocs to somewhat reflect that. So that's why I also decided to go with Microlocs. I definitely don't want to use this video to go in detail about each year of my Microlocs, as I already have a Microloc Journey video on my channel. So if you want to check that out, you can always go back through my videos and check out that video. In this video, I want to talk mostly about what my feelings have been like regarding my Microlocs just in this past year 5 to 6. I noticed a lot of drastic changes in my Microlocs this year. I noticed that the curl pattern that I used to have within my Microlocs, especially when I would get my retwist, started to disappear. So that's something that bothered me a little bit, because that was one of the main reasons why I liked the way my Microlocs were forming, because of those curl patterns. But I just felt like maybe it was just my hair finally, really going through the locking, budding process. So year 5 to 6 has definitely had its challenges. One thing I noticed about my locks this past year, I've experienced more dryness than I have since starting my lock journey. It seemed like no matter how much moisture I put into my locks, they would just dry out. Another concern I started to have was thinning issues, especially with some of the locks at the root. I would notice, at times I would go through and kind of separate my locks so that they don't start to join together, especially at the root. And I would notice how thin the lock is at the root. So to avoid breakage, I would just take that lock and wrap it around the lock next to it just to secure it, especially until my next lock retwist appointment. So that is something that I have noticed this year. Another challenge I dealt with this year with my Microlocs was hair fatigue. I started to get bored. I started to get bored with my hair. I felt like every few weeks I wanted to dye it. I wanted a different color. So I think one thing that I may have made a mistake about, so instead of utilizing chemical dyes to lighten my hair, I decided to go with the baking soda and peroxide method of lightening my hair. So with that, all you do is make a thick paste with the baking soda and peroxide. And you put the mixture on your locks. And what I did, I would wrap my hair up in a plastic bag and some aluminum foil just so that it can create some type of heat. I will leave this on my hair for about an hour, then wash it off. Go ahead and just wash my hair like I normally would, just to make sure I get all of that baking soda and peroxide residue out of my hair. So I got into the extra locks, just making sure all of that was clean. That method did work. I was able to lighten my hair just a tad bit. I would say, like, if the hair colors like 1, 1B, 2, I may have been able to lighten my hair from maybe like a 1B to a 2, or maybe a 1B to a 4. So I was pretty satisfied with that. I do believe that that was what started causing the dryness in my hair. I know I've heard that when you do get your hair dyed, it does tend to dry it out. However, I didn't expect that to actually be the case for natural ingredients as well. So that was a learning curve that I had. But I did end up achieving what I wanted in regard to adding some color to my hair. So not sure if you can tell, but this is what it ended up looking like compared to what my hair looks like towards my scalp. So the peroxide and baking soda mixture did work in regard to lightening my hair. So I actually was satisfied with this color. There was one time I wanted to actually just go get a box dye. Not anything that had like developer or bleach in it, but more so something to add color, considering the peroxide and baking soda had already lifted some of the color off of the locks. But I decided, you know what, I'm not a professional, so I'm not going to take any chances of damaging my hair. I was already experiencing dry out with my hair because of the process so far. So maybe in the future, I may go to a professional to get my locks dyed. I'm not sure. I guess that's an option I'll think about in the future. But as of right now, I think I'm okay with what the baking soda and peroxide was able to lift. I thought about going back in again to lift some different areas of my hair, but again, because of the dryness I experienced, I just decided, you know, let me leave it alone. Let me just go ahead about my regular routine, go ahead and get my retwist so that I can start to restore some of the moisture in my hair. So even with having locks 6 years, I still experience shrinkage. For instance, I got my hair retwisted maybe 2 weeks ago. And after the retwist, my hair was just about waist length. However, after a couple of days, the length did shrink and it went a little below bra length, or maybe right at bra length. So there is still shrinkage even though your locks are becoming longer. So that is something that I still have to get used to, but it's something that is still there throughout your lock journey. This past year, I also noticed my locks growing a little more than usual. This year, last year, 2025, I may have retwisted my hair 3 times, maybe 4. And I noticed with every retwist, there is a lot of new growth. So I do tend to oil my scalp maybe twice a week just to kind of promote hair growth. But I just didn't expect my hair to grow as quickly as it did. Now, in regard to how many inches I've gained in the past year, I don't know, because I don't make a record of inches of hair. I'm just not going to do that. So that is something I have noticed in this past year. My hair has started to grow more than usual. Another thing I noticed about at least myself and my locks this past year, I started to become more confident in when it came to my hair not being retwisted. I know I mentioned in a video before that I've always had a difficult time accepting the need a retwist process where all you see is just hair and then the locks. This past year has been probably the first year where I've become the most comfortable with that look. Basically why I only opted to get my hair retwisted 3 or 4 times last year. And you know, this upcoming year, I may get my hair retwisted 3 times. It just depends on, you know, how I'm feeling it and what I'm thinking my hair looks like. But I have noticed I have become more confident in between the retwist phase. So that is something that has been a benefit so far. Just going back to hair fatigue, this is something that I probably deal with every year when it gets hot, the urge to want to cut my locks off. It is hot and locks are hot. At least mine are. My locks aren't heavy, they're just hot. However, for most of the summer, my loctician was able to give me, I guess, a protective style where it did not really interfere with, well, she was able to give me somewhat of a protective style that took away some of the fullness. If I have pictures, I'll try to put them in here. They were just simple. She just simply twisted my hair, but the way she twisted it, it it kind of gave me, it allowed my scalp to breathe, but at the same time, I didn't find myself being overly hot with my locks last year. So that is one of the things I've noticed about my locks just in the past year. And I guess my advice for anyone who's thinking about getting Microlocs, regular locks, sister locks, just make sure you do your research. Make sure you look into the cost of first the install and the possible cost of maintenance for your locks. I can't retwist my own hair. So I knew that was something that I had to that's something I had to consider when I was thinking about Microlocs. Is this something that I can maintain? Going back to choosing a loctician, make sure you do your research on whomever you want to start your Microlocs, regular locks. I know with sister locks, it has to be someone who's specialized or licensed or certified in the sister lock installation. So that process is a little different, and sister locks are a little more costly than Microlocs or regular locks. So definitely look into, your loctician, what type of training the loctician has had, if the loctician has any work that they can show you, if the loctician also has work from those who she started locks some years ago, so that you can see what that person's progress looks like so far. Also, when considering Microlocs or any type of lock, be patient. I know a lot of us see videos on TikTok, YouTube of the girls who have these flourishing locks, and we feel like at the starter phase, how long is it going to take me, or how long is it going to take for my hair to look like that? It's a process. It takes patience, and not everyone's lock experience is going to be the same. You may start your grid, or you may start your Microloc similar to someone who you saw. Your locks may still come out totally different than what that person whose photo inspired you to start your Microloc. So that is definitely something to take into consideration when you're thinking about Microlocs. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's Microlocs or lock are going to look different. No matter what style you choose, everyone's locks are going to be different. Also, be patient with every phase of your Microloc or lock journey. That's one thing I definitely had to learn, especially as I mentioned before, the times between the retwist. As I mentioned, that was just something that often bothered me, because to me, I felt like that it's just me. I felt like my hair looked unkept. But, as I mentioned in the past year, that's something that I've been able to become more confident about. So definitely realize your locks are going to go through different phases, and you just need to understand the patience that comes with each of those phases. I definitely don't regret my Microlocs whatsoever. It's to the point now I actually try to convince my nieces to get Microlocs so that they can explore or experience their own journey. I like the freedom of not having to think too much about my hair. I like to get up, take my bonnet off, spritz my hair with a little bit of water, put some oil on if necessary, and just go. Of course, I'll try to style it every now and then, but I think for me, low maintenance styles has been the most beneficial, because it doesn't require so much tugging and pulling. Today, I do have my hair pulled up in a ponytail, which is something that I really don't do. I usually like to just let my hair hang and just leave it alone. If I could do this all over again, would I? Absolutely. I believe getting Microlocs has been the best decision for me. It also, gives me the opportunity to see what patience looks like. Going through each of the phases, looking at the changes, going through regret sometimes. There are times where when in your journey, you regret getting Microlocs. That's normal. But I actually would not change anything I've done so far. I've really enjoyed the journey that my Microlocs have taken me on. Microlocs have been a rewarding experience so far. It just, you get out what you put into it. So for anyone who's thinking about Microlocs, again, do your research, look through some inspirational photos, talk with other people who have locks, talk with them about their experience. If there are things that they wish they could change, talk with them about the maintenance of their Microlocs. Also, talk about the cost. Talk with, the loctician you've chosen, talk with her about the cost of him or her, about the cost of install, maintenance, retwist, so that you can make the best decision for yourself if you decide that you want to do Microlocs. So if you have Microlocs or thinking about getting Microlocs in the future, just let me know down in the comments. And let me know what are your feelings or what's your reason for wanting to start your journey, or what your reason was for starting your journey. With that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick updated video. If you could, please like the video, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.